Welcome to another episode of Questions for Cole. This is episode 6, and we have 3 brand new questions this week. Thanks to all of you who are continuing to send questions in. The email address, for those who don't know it yet, is cole@selkirkunitedchurch.ca. That's cole@selkirkunitedchurch.ca. The first question comes from one of our young people again, age 6 this time, and she has a very good question, a big question. Apparently, she and other family members were watching a previous episode of Questions for Cole, and she piped right up saying, "Yeah, I have a question. What is Jesus doing about the COVID virus for us?" So that is a big question, isn't it? And maybe it's one that a lot of you are asking. What's Jesus doing to help? Or what's God doing to help? Well, let's start with Jesus. Jesus came to earth a couple thousand years ago to teach us exactly how to deal with these kinds of problems in our lives. Now, they didn't have anything exactly like the COVID-19 virus back then, but they did have lots of disease, lots of poverty, lots of people dealing with all sorts of problems. And Jesus taught his followers back then, and anyone who would listen, well, a couple things. He taught them that they would never have to face anything alone. He taught them that, first of all, God would be with them. God would always be with them to give them strength and courage and wisdom. And God does all of those things still today for all of us. So that's one thing. That's what God is doing to help us, just like God has always done, loving us, caring for us, helping us through this tough time and others, listening to our prayers, giving us wisdom and courage and strength and hope. But Jesus didn't just teach us that God would be with us. He also taught us that we are supposed to help each other through all of the scary times in life. So many of the stories of Jesus have to do with people helping other people. He told his disciples that whenever they helped someone else, it was like they were helping him. It was like they were helping God. He taught us to look after each other, especially those who are having a tough time. So today, when we're facing this pandemic, this virus, whenever you see someone helping someone else, that person is actually putting into action what Jesus taught his followers to do way back then. So what is Jesus doing to help us? His teachings are helping to remind us what kind of people we are supposed to be. We are supposed to be kind and generous and thoughtful and loving. And we're supposed to especially watch out for others who are going through difficult times and make sure we find ways to show them God's love. And if you look around, there's a lot of that happening around the world and even around our own communities these days. Nurses and doctors and scientists and researchers, parents and grandparents and teachers and friends and neighbors, and even sometimes complete strangers, reaching out and helping, doing something kind for someone else. Sometimes big things like saving someone's life, and sometimes smaller things like cooking a meal for someone who can't for themselves, or calling someone who's alone or afraid, or just being kind to someone who needs it. So be watching for how God's love is spreading around our world in all sorts of different ways. That's how Jesus is helping. His teachings are still being lived out in so many good ways today, all around us. Thank you for that great question. The next question has come in from a number of different people over the past few weeks, and it has to do with our online services on Sundays. A number of people have sent kind words and thank yous and appreciation, but a few of them have also included a request or a hope that maybe somehow we could add some vocals to the beautiful piano music that have accompanied the hymns during the services. Here's one example of an email that we received a few weeks ago. Part of the email says, "Could you help us by singing out the words to the hymns some Sunday to help us raise our rusty voices from here at home?" It says, "If I drink my coffee first, I can sing out Happy Birthday since I have lots of practice. I try to croak to the Sunday AV words, but ... And there have been other similar requests. So the answer is yes. We have figured out that that is indeed possible. And so beginning this coming Sunday, there will be some vocals added to the piano. And hopefully that will help a little for those of you who are singing along at home. And I know some of you are singing beautifully, and maybe some of you are croaking a little bit, but hopefully it'll help to have a few other voices to sing along with. And the last question for today is, Cole, when someone finds out what you do for a living, how do they usually react? Well, that's an interesting one. When I started out in ministry at my very first church about 30 years ago now, there was one reaction that was almost guaranteed. Whenever anyone found out I was a minister, the reaction was almost always the same. They'd say something like, "You're a minister? You look much too young to be a minister." If I had a nickel for every time I heard that one, I'd have a whole bunch of nickels, believe me. And people kept saying that even after I'd been a minister for 5 years, and 10 years, and 15 years, and even 20 years, they were still saying it. But sadly, I don't hear that line very much anymore. In fact, it's been quite a few years since I last heard anyone tell me that I look too young to be a minister. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. People are probably just too busy with their own lives to mention it. I'm sure that's it. Anyway, thanks so much for the question, and thanks all of you for the questions this week. Keep them coming in, and I'll see you soon.